Welcome back. I'm Surya. In this video, we will explore how to write an advantage-disadvantage essay. I'll guide you through the planning process, the structuring of your essay, and the use of effective language. By the end, you will have a clear understanding of how to write a well-organized response to the task. Let's get started. The first step in writing a well-structured advantage-disadvantage essay is understanding the question type. Let's go through the key elements one by one. IELTS advantage-disadvantage essay questions usually begin with a statement expressing a viewpoint or describing a trend. This is followed by an instruction asking you to discuss both the positive and negative aspects of the topic while presenting both sides equally. Some questions go further and ask whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, requiring you to evaluate which side is stronger. Your response should clearly explain both the benefits and drawbacks, providing relevant examples to support each point. Depending on the specific wording of the question, you may need to structure your response differently. Some IELTS questions ask you to discuss both advantages and disadvantages without taking a side. Since they don't request an opinion, your response should stay neutral and simply present both perspectives. An example of this type of question is shown on the slide. Other questions require you to decide whether the advantages are more than the disadvantages. In these cases, you must evaluate the overall impact and clearly state which side is stronger. You can see an example of such a question on the slide. To ensure clarity, your thesis statement should establish your stance from the beginning. If an opinion is needed, clearly express it in the introduction and reinforce it in the conclusion to ensure a well-organized essay. By identifying these key elements in the question, you can ensure your essay remains relevant, well-structured, and effectively addresses the task. Now let's analyze a sample IELTS advantage-disadvantage question. The question states, the use of social media has become an integral part of modern life. Discuss the advantages and disadvantages of social media in today's society and state whether you think the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. To write an effective response, we need to identify the key elements of this question. Let's break it down. First, the focus of this question is the growing impact of social media on daily life. Then, if we look at the task, we are required to discuss both the advantages and disadvantages of social media. So, we need a balanced approach. Now, let's see if an opinion is required. Well, yes, it is. The question asks whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages, meaning we must take a stance in the introduction as well as in our conclusion. So we have understood that we need to write about the advantages of social media's impact on people's lives, the disadvantages of social media, particularly the problems it can cause, our opinion on whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Before we start writing, it's important to take a few minutes to plan. We have already looked at the question and understood what is required. Now let's move on to brainstorming some ideas. Brainstorming is a useful technique that allows us to generate some key points. Since social media is something all of us use every day, we already have some knowledge about its advantages and disadvantages. Let's begin by listing the advantages of social media. We know that social media has transformed communication, allowing people to stay connected no matter where they are. So the first point can be easy communication and connection with friends and family. Social media allows people to connect across distances instantly and makes communication more efficient and accessible. Another major advantage is business and job opportunities. Companies and entrepreneurs use social media for marketing and networking. They also create many employment opportunities. One more point can be access to instant news and information. Since it is now available instantly at our fingertips, people can stay updated on global events, educational content, and professional insights in real time. These benefits have made social media a powerful tool. However, we must also consider its drawbacks. Let's now look at the disadvantages. The first drawback is privacy and data security concerns. Many users unknowingly share personal information which can be exploited for unethical purposes. Another drawback can be social media addiction and its impact on physical and mental health. We have seen that social media addiction has become a growing concern. Excessive use of social media can lead to anxiety and depression. It also reduces face-to-face communication. Lastly, spread of misinformation. False or misleading information can quickly go viral and can mislead people and influence public perception negatively. During the planning stage, quickly note down relevant vocabulary, particularly synonyms for key terms related to your topic. This will help you maintain fluency while writing, as you won't have to pause to think of the right words. Now, we don't want to list too many points in our essay. Instead, let's select the two most relevant advantages and disadvantages to discuss in depth, considering the length of the essay and the time we get to develop and write the essay. We will choose easy communication and business opportunities as advantages, and privacy concerns and physical and mental health issues as disadvantages. Once the ideas are finalized, we can decide on the structure of the essay. Now let's look at the structure we should follow in our essay. In the introduction, we paraphrase the topic and clearly state our thesis. If required, we include our opinion on whether the advantages outweigh the disadvantages. Next, we move on to the first body paragraph, where we focus on the advantages, expand on the points by providing explanations, and support them with relevant examples to strengthen the arguments. In the second body paragraph, we cover the disadvantages, again providing examples for clarity. Finally, in the conclusion, we summarize the main points and state whether we believe the advantages are stronger than the disadvantages. End with a final thought, such as a recommendation, a prediction, or a general reflection on the topic. Following this format ensures clarity, coherence, and a strong response to the task. Now let's move on to the next step, how to craft a good introduction. Now let's start our introduction for the essay. A well-written introduction consists of three key parts: paraphrasing the question, providing general background, and writing a clear thesis statement. Let's go through each step in detail. The first sentence of our introduction should paraphrase the given question. This means rewording the topic using synonyms and restructuring the sentence while keeping the meaning the same. This helps demonstrate understanding and avoids direct repetition of the question. Since our topic is about how social media has become an integral part of modern life, we can start with something like this. Social media has become a significant aspect of daily life for many people, shaping how people communicate, access information, and conduct business. After paraphrasing the question, we need to provide a general background on the topic. This should briefly explain why the topic is relevant and highlight both positive and negative aspects without going into detail. A sentence like this works well. It offers numerous benefits such as instant connectivity and business opportunities. Nevertheless, it also raises serious concerns regarding privacy, mental health, and physical well-being. After this, we need a clear thesis statement. This sentence outlines what the essay will discuss. Since we are required to explore both the advantages and disadvantages of social media and give our opinion, we can state it explicitly in the final sentence of our introduction. Here is an example. While acknowledging that there are drawbacks, the essay will argue that the advantages of social media outweigh the disadvantages. Now let's combine all these sentences and see how our complete introduction paragraph looks. Here is our introduction. Following this approach ensures that your introduction is clear, engaging, and effectively sets up the rest of the essay. Now that we have completed the introduction, let's move on to writing the body paragraphs, where we will discuss the advantages and disadvantages in detail. Just like the introduction, the body paragraphs follow a structured approach to ensure clarity and coherence. We will go step by step, revealing each sentence as we build a well-written paragraph. The first sentence of a body paragraph should always be a topic sentence. This sentence introduces the main idea of the paragraph and tells the reader what the focus will be. In this case, since we are discussing advantages, our topic sentence could be: one of the key advantages of social media is that it enables instant communication across the world. This topic sentence clearly states the main benefit: instant global communication. After introducing the main idea, the next step is to expand on it by explaining how or why it is an advantage. Here we provide more details about how social media allows people to stay connected. We can write, platforms such as WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter allow people to stay connected with family and friends regardless of distance. By mentioning specific platforms, we make our explanation more relevant to the present context and relatable to everyday experiences. But to make our argument stronger, we need an example. The example should illustrate how social media benefits users in real-life situations. Here is how we can write an example. This is particularly beneficial for individuals living abroad who can maintain relationships easily. Now, our point is not just explained, but also supported by an example, showing how people use social media to stay in touch, especially those living far from home. After discussing communication, let's introduce another benefit of social media: its role in business and job opportunities. We can write it as: another major benefit is the role social media plays in business and job opportunities. Just like before, we now expand on this point by explaining how social media is beneficial for businesses. To strengthen this point, we explain how companies and individuals use social media professionally. Here is how we can develop this idea. Companies use social media for marketing, while freelancers and entrepreneurs can reach a wider audience without investing heavily in traditional advertising. Now that we have explained the idea, we should add an example to support it, just as we did earlier. We can give an example of how businesses actually benefit from social media. We can write, for instance, small businesses can use Instagram and Facebook ads to attract customers globally. By mentioning specific platforms and their advertising features, we show a practical application of how social media supports businesses. Now let's put everything together and take a look at our complete body paragraph on the next slide. Here is the full body paragraph on the advantages of social media. Before moving on to the next body paragraph, take a moment to notice the language used. Following structured phrases, connectors, and precise vocabulary will help you achieve a high band score. Notice how the topic sentence is framed and how each advantage is introduced. These are highlighted in green. Also look at the highlighted vocabulary in yellow, which is both relevant to the topic and commonly used in social media contexts. Now let's move on to the next body paragraph where we will discuss the disadvantages of social media. Now let's develop the second body paragraph which discusses the disadvantages of social media. Just like the first body paragraph, we will start with a topic sentence, expanding on the idea, providing an example, introducing a second disadvantage, and supporting it with another example. Let's go through it sentence by sentence. Despite its benefits, social media also has several drawbacks, particularly regarding privacy and security. This topic sentence introduces the idea that despite its advantages, social media has disadvantages. Here we specify that privacy and security issues are key concerns. Now that we have introduced the disadvantage, we need to explain how and why it is a problem. Here we expand on the idea of privacy risks by explaining that social media platforms gather personal data which can be exploited. This can be written as, many platforms collect personal data which can be misused for targeted advertising or even cybercrime. To support our point, we can provide an example of how data breaches can lead to serious consequences. We can write it as, for instance, there have been numerous cases where data was exposed which resulted in identity theft and financial fraud. Now that we have discussed the first drawback, we can introduce the second one, which is social media addiction. This sentence shifts the focus to a different drawback. Notice how we clearly state what the problem is and its effects on both mental and physical health. Another major disadvantage is the risk of social media addiction, which negatively affects both mental and physical health. Here we expand on the idea of addiction by explaining its consequences. Instead of just stating that social media is addictive, we specify how it negatively impacts people's daily responsibilities such as education, work, and personal life. We can write it as, many users spend hours scrolling through feeds, neglecting their studies, work, and personal well-being. Finally, we support our point by providing an example. This sentence explains how social media addiction can cause serious health issues, including sleep problems, eye strain, and anxiety. It can be written as, for example, the constant urge to check notifications often leads to sleep disturbances, eye strain, and increased anxiety. Now let's combine all the sentences and see the complete body paragraph on the next slide. Here is our complete body paragraph on the disadvantages of social media. Before moving on to the conclusion, take a moment to notice the language used. Notice how the topic sentence is framed and how each disadvantage is introduced. These are highlighted in green. Also look at the highlighted vocabulary in yellow, which is both relevant to the topic and commonly used in discussions about social media. Now let's move on to writing a conclusion that effectively summarizes our discussion. A good conclusion should summarize the main points of both body paragraphs first. Then, if an opinion is required, it should be provided. Finally, the essay can be ended with a recommendation, suggestion, or a prediction. So first, we will try to summarize the main points, and this can be done in the following way. In conclusion, while social media facilitates global communication and business opportunities, it also raises concerns about privacy, mental health, and physical well-being. As we have been asked to provide our opinion, we should give one. It can be written as, however, I believe the advantages of social media outweigh the disadvantages, as its positive impact on connectivity and opportunities is undeniable. Finally, we can end the essay with a suggestion like this. In short, it is essential for individuals to make the most of social media's benefits while minimizing its risks. Now let's combine all the sentences and see our conclusion on the next slide. So here is our conclusion. Now let's look at how our complete essay looks like. Here is the full essay. Pause here and read it in one go to understand how each sentence is logically connected to the next and how each paragraph flows smoothly into the next. Now that we have seen how a complete essay is structured, it's time to apply what we have learned. Let's move on to some practice questions where you can test your understanding. You can see 5 IELTS type advantage-disadvantage questions here. Take a moment to review the questions on the slide. Choose one that you prefer and apply the structure we have just covered in the essay. As you begin writing, follow the structure we discussed. Start with an introduction by paraphrasing the question and stating your thesis. In the body paragraphs, present advantages and disadvantages with explanations and examples. Finally, conclude by summarizing key points, giving an opinion if required, and providing a suggestion or prediction. So choose a question and start practicing. Thank you for watching. I hope you found this video helpful. Best of luck with your writing practice and keep learning. I'll see you in the next video.